Hi everyone, my name is Laura Armstrong and I live here in Toronto. I am an event planner by day and I work at a marketing agency. And about 2 years ago, I founded a company called Dirty Blonde, which is a dry shampoo line for women, for men or women, that comes in various shades, that's vegan and cruelty free. Total small shop, but it's something that I was passionate about for a while and wanted to execute, and I did.
So what did inspire you to start your side hustle? Maybe just walk through the initial inkling of the idea through to, hey, I'm actually going to start this thing to where you are today.
So, what inspired me to start Dirty Blonde was as being an event planner, I travel a lot for work, which means you can bring minimal luggage with you on planes. I'm staying in hotel rooms all the time. I'm waking up very early to be on trade show floors. And as you can see, I have very long blonde hair, and washing your hair in a hotel room is a very terrible experience. So, anything to prolong the need to wash my hair was something I really wanted. And so, I started looking into dry shampoo, which is an alternative to washing your hair every day. But just seeing what was out on the market, it made my hair look white or gray. I didn't like the application process, and a lot of it is actually aerosol based, which you can't bring onto a plane. You'd have to check your bag in order to do that. So I thought there had to be a better solution out there for women with various shades of hair that travel a lot, or just want to get to the gym early, or just want to save a bit more time in the day. Just a more pleasant experience overall. And when I saw that there wasn't one, I decided to create one myself. I started making my own dry shampoo for myself and for my friends, and start formulating different shades, different scents. And I realized I think I had something, I found a bit of a gap in the market, you would say. So I started an Instagram channel, I started a Shopify store, and it kind of just took off from there, and it's been doing really well.
So the third question is, how did you go about acquiring your first few customers, and what were some of the lessons you learned in those early days?
I think when you have like an e-commerce business and you're a new brand that people haven't heard of before, you have to consider the idea of trust. Someone's going to spend money on a product they can't physically touch. They're going to trust a brand they haven't heard anything about before. So you have to entice them in a way to make them kind of get over that fear that this might be, not worth my while. So what I did was, because Dirty Blonde offers about 6 different shades at this point in various different scents, letting women come onto the site, and they could actually, instead of just buying one, if they bought one, they could get a second one for free. So they could try out different shades, they could try out different scents, and just enticing them that basically they'd get another product for completely for free. Kind of got them over that fear of like, what if I don't like this? What if it's not worth my time? What if it's not worth my money? Just because there was a chance that they could get double the amount of something, as well as just starting off with just really small like social ads, getting in people's Instagram, like when it showed up on their Instagram feed, like seeing the products there as well. I think that helped me out a lot, as well as just going on Instagram and finding women that I think might enjoy the product and starting to follow them and interact with them that way as well.
I think a lot of people are intimidated by this idea of starting a Shopify store, running my own Instagram ads, thinking through what type of promotions to put together. Any advice for people who have an idea, but they're waiting for something? Maybe they're waiting for somebody to teach them, for somebody to, or maybe to take a course. Like what was that trigger for you to say, you know what, I'm just going to do this myself? And then how did you go about kind of learning the steps you needed to build that store, launch those ads? That's it.
I think for myself, the way I've always like approached when you start a new business, this is the second business I've started, was that always approach it like, regardless how, if this is a success or a fail, I will learn something from this that I can apply to my career, that I can apply to, changing direction in my life if I really wanted to. So for myself, it was kind of like, don't look at the whole picture because that can be very daunting. Look at it as like, break it all down, do it day by day, do it step by step. Like just start the Instagram channel, just get a few followers that way. Like start a free website if you want, and then move over to a Shopify platform because that does cost money. You can do ads for only $20 if you wanted to. You can grow that to be a couple $100s, but you can start very small that way as well. So that's the way I kind of approached it, to take the fear out of what if this doesn't go well. I know it's always a bit daunting too, and you know that your friends and family can see that you're trying something new. And if you're not surrounded by entrepreneurs, if you're not surrounded like-minded people, it may look even crazier. But I think that's the best way to do it, is just break it down piece by piece and don't feel overwhelmed by it, and just know that you can back out at any time if you feel like it's getting to be too much, but it's really worth the hustle in the end, because you get so much out of it in terms of like education, in terms of connection, in terms of building out new skills for yourself as well, it's definitely worth it regardless if you get like a monetary return at the end of the day.
Um, any advice for people that have a full-time job right now, but have that itch to start a side hustle?
Is
What,
that more like a time thing, or is that
pardon me?
like, do you mean that in the sense that they might have a lack of time to do these things, or is it?
Yeah, that's a good clarifying question. So I think a lot of people, I do think a lot of, because I teach at U of T and I hear people all the time with these ideas for side hustles, and that's one of the reasons they're taking the course. But there's always a number of things that are stopping them, right? Time is one, right? How do I actually fit this into my schedule? One is, what happens if my boss finds out, right? Am I going to lose my job because they think this is a distraction? To your point, what are my friends and family going to think, them seeing me put myself out there? So I think there's a few layers to it. Um, you can go in any one direction or you can touch on all of those. It's totally up to you.
I think for myself, like in terms of like the time commitment, like I always wanted to go back to school and do my MBA, but I knew that was going to take up a lot of my time and it was also going to take up a lot of my money. And someone even suggested, like, you always have these great ideas. Why don't you put that money and that time into one of your ideas? You'll still get that business education regardless. And so just kind of having that mindset when I approached it. And I think as like an entrepreneur, you have a general curiosity about the world around you regardless. So you're not going to feel that fulfillment unless you have your own little side project. So it's nice to just have something that's completely yours that you completely own. Like I look at Dirty Blonde as this like little like tiny little business that completely supports itself at this point, that like I grew out of nothing, which is an amazing thing to have. And in terms of like being concerned that your boss or your company might not appreciate it, again, depending what your idea is and where you work. But for myself, like I started a new job about 10 months ago, and during my interview, what stood out about me was that I started Dirty Blonde. Like they were very interested in the fact that I had a strong creative side, that I saw a massive project through to the end, that I didn't give up on something, that I built a social following, that I know how to design a website, that I have vendor connections, I know how to deal with overseas shipping. Like all of those things came into play by just presenting an idea that I brought to life. So it can benefit you in a lot of different ways that way as well. In terms of family and friends, like again, it is very hard to pitch to people your ideas. So I always try to warn people, like if you do have a new idea, like nurture it for a while, just keep it to yourself, kind of grow, develop it in your head, write it down, make a plan that's all your own. But make sure the first person you tell is a like-minded person. Because the first time I pitched Dirty Blonde to someone, that I don't get it, it's kind of sounds dumb, don't think you should do it. And it was like, it destroyed me in a way. Like I went so quiet with it for a long time. But then I realized, like, they're not an entrepreneur. They're not a creative thinker the way that I am. They would never execute something. I talked to the wrong person. So you have to keep that in mind as well. And I think you'll get places better if you surround yourself with like-minded individuals. And it's based on that quote, like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, basically. Like just always look for those people that'll like keep you going forward, and you'll be more successful that way.
That's awesome. That's really good advice. Um, any books or resources, anything that you'd recommend to people that are interested in starting a side hustle?
For myself, I find podcasts to be the most beneficial for me. And I think with the thing I struggle with the most is that like my company is a product-based company, and I feel like that's not as popular right now. You're going to see a lot of tech startups that like are app development, or you'll see a lot of people who are, life coaches or career coaches, or they're building out a consultant agency. So those things don't actually have a product in alignment with what they do. So going to find those people that are actually building a business based on a product is what's been helping me out a lot. So I find even watching shows like Shark Tank, podcasts like How I Built This, there is the Side Hustle School podcast, there is Proof to Product podcast. Like I constantly have these people, their voices in my head all the time, because as I said before, I'm not surrounded by people who are generally curious or have an entrepreneurial spirit. So I have to go looking for those stories and for those people and for those interviews, because that kind of keeps me inspired as well. So when I do have a long day at work and I need to come home and I have to pack up all my shipments for that day and I need to get to Canada Post before 9, or I need to spend all day Sunday making dry shampoo, like I just keep those things going because it keeps me motivated knowing that other people like went through the same amount of grit. And I think it's really beneficial to hear those stories, because you realize it's not like as simple as, oh, I just started an Instagram channel, like 20,000 people are now following me. Like there's a lot of work behind all of that. Like if something looks effortless, it's because a lot of work went into it. So just keeping that in mind as well. But like I'm very like audio and visual, so I find like shows and podcasts really help me as well. If there is one book I could recommend, it's Start With Why. I feel like that one really hit home for me in terms of why are you creating this business? What does it stand for, and how to market it appropriately? Because you could have the best product out there, but if you're not showcasing it in the right way, it will still fail regardless. So just keeping that in mind too, like marketing is such a big part of what you do. And when you're the one doing everything, you kind of sometimes forget about the content or the social posts you're putting up and what it all leads up to and it all means at the end of the day. So it's nice to kind of keep those pillars in alignment.
That's awesome. That's really, really good. Um, can I ask another follow-up question?
You can ask as many as you like.
So you mentioned a couple times the importance of surrounding yourself with entrepreneurial people. Um, if if you if you don't naturally have that, right? Maybe you don't come from an entrepreneurial family, or your network of friends don't necessarily have that mindset. Any suggestions for creating that network and connecting with people that think in a similar way?
I find LinkedIn to be so great for connecting with entrepreneurial people. I get messages all the time being like, oh, I saw that you started Dirty Blonde. Can we grab a coffee? Can we have like a 15-minute call? I'd love to discuss like X, Y, and Z with you. I think when you're looking for like a career-based network, definitely go on LinkedIn. You'll find a lot of people there. There's so many like meetups and stuff. I know it's hard right now with COVID. It really kind of threw a wrench in everyone's plans in terms of, face-to-face interaction, but there are groups out there that used to plan, get-togethers for like women entrepreneurs or people of color or, immigrants to Canada. Like there's so many subgroups out there that are there to help you find your way if you're looking to meet like-minded people. So I think you definitely do have to go looking for it. And in terms of just keeping yourself self-educated as well, like a lot of people assume like, oh, I don't have my MBA, or I didn't do my degree in business, or, I come from an arts background, I don't know anything about technology. Like there's so many resources online in terms of like LinkedIn has courses you can take. There's Code Academy if you need to learn how to code. There are, tons of YouTube videos that will show you how to set up social ads that'll work. Like there's so many free resources out there, or like really inexpensive resources too, to get yourself educated that way, to build that confidence that you can do these things. And there's so many, like even just Facebook groups too, if you don't actually want to meet with people face to face, there's so many groups that you can join just to keep motivated, or if you just have general questions you want to throw out there to get answers from people. I think those are great ways as well.
Maybe my last one, because I'm curious, and if you're not comfortable, you don't have to share. But your I think you called it your ideation space, your wall over there. Is
Yeah.
that what you called it?
Yeah.
Um, anything in there? Like, is it worth chatting through the importance of having space to ideate, be creative? You know, what is your process for kind of taking those ideas that are in your head and actually turning them into reality?
I think for myself right now, and again, like when you're executing an idea, you're going to be the only one that you employ for a very long time. So you're going to be in charge of a lot of different aspects. So for myself, it's always like product development, like what other products do I want to add to my lineup? Like I did start with dry shampoo, but as I expanded that line, I realized I became more interested in other organic products as well when it came to like what was going on my skin, what other products I was putting in my hair, the damages of, chemicals and overuse of soap and what it does too. So I've slowly added more products to my line. So what I do is I kind of ideate based on like pillars. So I'm like, okay, social media, website, communication plan, brand strategy, product development, finding ways to do better relationships with vendors, PR, getting more exposure to the brand in other ways that aren't just social ads at the same time. And I find when I write it out and put it on my wall, it keeps everything organized for me visually. Like I can't just always have it in my head, or I'll forget certain things, or, after a while you just have too many spreadsheets to look at on your computer. So I feel like having like an ideation space where you can go and just look at the wall and you can start to see the patterns and the trends of where you're going is so helpful. And also just for goal setting too. Like if I want to have, X amount of revenue by the end of the year, that means every month I need to hit this target. at a certain percent growth rate. So I need to figure out if I'm going to do all of these things, what do I need to do to make sure that they happen? And that all comes down to those pillars I was just describing. Like, what's the user experience when they get on the website? What's my fall off rate? How many emails am I sending to follow up? What are they saying about the product? What would they like to see improved about the product? How is the shipping going? Is there a way I can decrease shipping costs? Is the packaging good? Like, what's the experience when they actually open the box? Like, all of these things come into play in order to make your business successful. So you just have to sometimes break it down for yourself and then measure out, like, social media is very important to me, but at the end of the day, the most important factor is the product itself, like just weighing out what means more to you, like urgently versus a long-term goal.